when photography became available, painters already knew that like their job would change. Like, and not only photography, but then printing too, improving so fast. So like making paintings nowadays is inherently different from what it meant 500 years ago. Oil painting was groundbreaking as technology.
I do think it is like the camera in some ways, in that it will change our priorities and change what's special to us when we look at a piece of art, whether it's generated or not.
There's always going to be something new that is causing alarm, and it's never going to be the apocalyptic end of the arts that people say it's going to be.
So the computers in my sort of field of work have been slowly taken over, but with this AI stuff, it's almost cutting everything out, apart from your, I don't know, just imagination, I guess.
So it is getting harder and harder to still find something that's not been done. But in the end, I also like a good challenge. So it just I have to look harder.
To be honest, I mean, do I know exactly what's going to happen next? No, because this is hard to predict. But I can say that my own experience, and I think the experience of a lot of people working with this, has been we suddenly learned a lot more about art history than we had known.
It's a bit unfair, of course, because some people took, I don't know, years, decades to perfect their style and find their niche. And now all it takes is to put their name in the prompt, and then you can just have the shortcut and go on from there.
So, no, I'm pretty sure that the effect of this will actually be to get a lot of people more interested in art history than they were, because they can now explore it kind of actively and creatively.
So let's start from the beginning. Whether you see it as a natural next step in arts or a threat to human artists, AI art, or in specific AI image generation, has been on everyone's mind, at least with the release of DALL-E and DALL-E 2 in 2021 and 2022. Ever since then, the art and tech world has been divided between fear and excitement concerning the new technology. But what even is AI image generation? I'll let John Oliver explain it to you.
Yeah, AI image generators. There are a number of them out there now, like DALL-E, Crayon, and Midjourney. And with each one, you simply type in a text prompt, and it'll create images for you in around a minute. So, for instance, you might type in, let's say, a roast beef superhero. Now, what does that look like? Is it a superhero made of roast beef? Is it a superhero that saves roast beef? Is it both? I have no idea. But here's what Midjourney's AI created based on that phrase. And I have to say, well played, robot.
OpenAI, the company behind DALL-E, describes their product this way.
Have you ever seen a polar bear playing bass? Or a robot painted like a Picasso? Didn't think so. DALL-E 2 is a new AI system from OpenAI that can take simple text descriptions like a koala dunking a basketball and turn them into photorealistic images that have never existed before.
So what DALL-E and other image generators do is taking a natural language prompt. You just type out a description of an image. You can use descriptors like oil painting or 3D rendered, and even artists like Rembrandt to imitate their style. Then the AI will generate images based on your prompt. Now you can download the image, edit it, or generate variations like I did here.
Other applications work similarly, using a natural language prompt. There are some differences though. For example, Midjourney is accessible through a Discord server and can also produce images with a different aspect ratio. But how does image generation actually work? How does the prompt get transformed into an image? First, we need to understand that the AIs in DALL-E and Midjourney don't just search for an image that fits the prompt or merge images together, but actually generate new images. One important aspect to achieve that is machine learning.
Machine learning gives us the ability to learn things about the world from large amounts of data that we as human beings can't possibly study or appreciate. So machine learning is when we teach computers to learn patterns from looking at examples in data such that they can recognize those patterns and apply them to new things that they haven't seen before.
A dog. A cat. I think a cat.
Good guess. That's what machines do too. They make guesses. Is this a cat or a dog?
None.
None. What is it?
It's human.
So machine learning is when we teach machines to make guesses about what things are based on looking at a lot of different examples. When we try to teach machines to recognize things like cats and dogs, it takes a lot of examples. So we have to show them tens of thousands or even millions of examples before they can get even close to as good at it as you are.
So with machine learning, we train an AI with a lot of training data. But how does that help generate images?
The new generated image doesn't come from the training data. It comes from the latent space of the deep learning model. That'll make sense in a minute. That's what deep learning algorithms do as they go through all the training data. They find variables that help improve their performance on the task, and in the process, they build out a mathematical space with way more than 3 dimensions. So we'll say this represents the latent space of the model, and it has more than 500 dimensions. Those 500 axes represent variables that humans wouldn't even recognize or have names for, but the result is that the space has meaningful clusters. A region that captures the essence of banana-ness, a region that represents the textures and colors of photos from the 1960s. Any point in this space can be thought of as the recipe for a possible image, and the text prompt is what navigates us to that location. But then there's one more step. Translating a point in that mathematical space into an actual image in pixel space involves a generative process called diffusion. It starts with just noise and then, over a series of iterations, arranges pixels into a composition that makes sense to humans.
This also means that depending on the training data, the code, and other variables, different AIs can produce different outcomes and generate different images. AI image generation also has a cultural impact. As we've already established in the beginning, some artists don't like the development of AI image generation or its past improvement, and feel rather
oh, wow!
let's say frustrated. And they do have valid concerns. For example, watch artist and YouTuber John O'Dry talk about how AI interferes with his profession.
This technology is absolutely disruptive for the art world. It's producing award-winning art, quite literally. If it can be created so easily by just typing words into a text box, rather than slaving over a canvas or a block of marble for hundreds of hours. This scares me. It makes a huge part of my practice somewhat redundant. I feel like I've put in all this hard work, and now there are artists who get handed a technology that pretty much circumvents years of practice. I'm trying to remind myself that this is a tool that can help me just as much as it helps others. It might make some aspects of my practice redundant, but it also opens up space to create in a faster and more fluid way.
On the other hand, many also see the new chances and opportunities it can bring.
We have to start thinking about, I think, art not as something that we create, but as something that we explore. We explore works that are already there, potentially, and just choosing to excavate and reveal some of them.
In terms of human creativity potentials and technology and like all these fascinating ideas, I think, wow, this is great.
I also think that there's something to be said about kind of collaborating with this kind of alien, like otherworldly, you know, some people call it like a collective unconsciousness or collective consciousness or whatever.
Even though AI art is evolving fast and can produce truly astonishing results, it still has limitations.
The technology is constantly evolving, and DALL-E 2 has limitations. If it's taught with images that are incorrectly labeled, like a plane labeled car, and a user tries to generate a car, DALL-E may create a plane. It's like talking to a person who learned the wrong word for something. DALL-E can also be limited by gaps in its training. If you type baboon and DALL-E has learned what a baboon is through images and accurate labels, it will generate a lot of great baboons. But if you type howler monkey and it hasn't learned what a howler monkey is, DALL-E will give you its best idea of what it thinks it could be, like a howling monkey.
Apart from the technological capabilities, it is also limited by the terms of usage of the respective companies.
With those, the companies try to prevent misuse, for example extremism, harassment, or pornography. So if someone tries to generate a prompt that is violating their policies, it will most of the times automatically cancel the generation and show the content policy.
One problem with AI image generation and AI in general is unwanted bias. Watch technologist Kriti Sharma talk about AI bias. While the TED Talk was held 3 years ago, her claims are still important and accurate.
A Black or Latino person is less likely than a white person to pay off their loan on time. A person called John makes a better programmer than a person called Mary. A Black man is more likely to be a repeat offender than a white man. You're probably thinking, wow, that sounds like a pretty sexist, racist person, right? These are some real decisions that AI has made very recently based on the biases it has learned from us, from the humans. Think about how these two things combine and affect a kid growing up in today's world around AI. So they're doing some research for a school project and they Google images of CEO. The algorithm shows them results of mostly men. And now they Google personal assistant. As you can guess, it shows them mostly females. And then they want to put on some music and maybe order some food. And now they're barking orders at a female voice obedient female voice assistant. The good news about AI is that it is entirely within our control. We get to teach the right values, the right ethics to AI.
While Sharma wasn't talking specifically about image generation, it still applies here. Similar to when you look up a specific term on Google Images, the representation and depiction of terms can be problematic. You can even easily try that yourself. On DALL-E 2, for example, the generations for the word beauty showed me images of white women, and the generations for professor were also predominantly white as well as mainly male. That being said, other terms resulted in more diverse generations, like university students or human. AI image generation is developing fast, so naturally there are still a lot of unanswered and debated questions. For example, who is the author? The AI or the human who has written the prompt?
Photography comes up a lot because there is this debate around, is the artist actually the artist, or is it just the tool that's like doing all the work to create the thing? And I think, that analogy seems very appropriate in this moment, because you go back in time and look at what people were saying about cameras, and it's like, oh well, they're not artists, they're just like, it's just the camera that's doing all the work.
There's always the question now, when everybody is moving in the same space and stepping on their toes, what is it that you claim is yours?
There's something to be said about having complete control over the output of what you make.
So I've been adding things on in Photoshop and changing things around a bit, so when you start doing that, you kind of feel like you've got a bit more ownership over it. The prompt is the sort of magic trick, isn't it?
Different generators have different answers to this. While DALL-E allows commercial usage of their images, Midjourney and Stable Diffusions imply in their terms of service that they hold all ownership rights. All applications deny responsibility and liability for the images created with them. Debates about this were stirred up once more when Jason Allen won the Colorado Fair competition and afterwards revealed that the winning image had been created with the Midjourney AI. This also resulted in a competition banning artworks that were created with AI image generators for the future. Beyond the images created with AI, there are questions concerning the copyright of the training data. DALL-E 2 was trained with over 650 million images. And even though OpenAI denies the use of copyrighted images, they didn't publicly disclose their training data, causing speculations about the copyright status of those images. While there are many unanswered questions, one thing is clear. AI image generation has arrived and will not disappear anytime soon. Instead, it changes our perception of and relationship with AI as well as art.